All right, we are recording. Step up to the mic.
Lay down some fat beats.
Don't do that, please.
I can.
No. All right, so last week we released a piece of content on our site, and the title is "You Might Dig Fractional Marketing." So I want to just quickly, shout out to the writing team on this one, because one of the things that they said at the end of this, in the spirit of the sort of landscaping metaphor, that it really stuck with me, and I think we might differ a little bit on this, but is some homeowners absolutely love waking up early on Saturday morning, firing up the lawnmower, and spending hours manicuring their lawn. If you're like us, you'd much rather sleep in, watch some cartoons, and relax knowing that you're paying someone else to do it for you. And that just brought me back to like my childhood watching Saturday morning cartoons. And I wonder, you and I have never talked about this, because I know you probably did a similar thing. What was your favorite Saturday morning cartoon?
What's interesting is that Saturday mornings when I was younger, and it depends on the age, right? So hands down, Transformers and Mask when I was really, really young. But as I started getting into my early teens, Cartoon Network ran anime every, I believe it was Saturday morning. I might be conflating it with Sunday, but anyways, that's where I actually, and I don't watch any anime anymore, but there was a few ones that I would always wait for them to come on. One was Vampire Hunter D, and the other one was Tank Police. And I was so excited when they're on. And what sucks is I can't find these things anywhere. I wish I could, because they're awesome stories. But those were those were probably the one when I was real little. It was definitely Mask and Transformers.
So I sometimes don't know how I ended up the way that I am, because I didn't have cable television until
Head injuries?
I was like 15. Possibly it could have been head injuries, but so what I had was like antenna based TV, and there was channel, ABC, CBS, and NBC, and that was it. And so Saturday morning for me, I think, was He-Man, Ghostbusters, which, I mean, the Ghostbusters animated series,
So good.
it might be better than the movies.
And it holds up.
It really does. It's intense. And
Oh man, I forgot Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
and the Turtles. I was going to say,
I can't believe I forgot that.
and I still, there are, and I would probably say the same is true for you, like, all of these shows were made to market toys to us.
Yeah.
That's the only reason they existed. But I can probably sing more of the theme songs to those shows than I'd like to admit. Probably Turtles, probably Ghostbusters.
Absolutely Turtle.
Probably He-Man. Actually, I love the He-Man theme anyways. And yeah, I mean, there was just, and they just stacked them like perfectly, like for, a child's
back
attention
to back
span,
to back, and
30 minute,
and what's
segments.
funny is our kids will never experience that in that way. I mean, of course, they're going to have experiences that we would never have too, like being able to watch whatever you want whenever the hell you feel like it on pretty much any channel. But I remember when my son he's 12 now, and he was 4, and he went over to my sister's house, and he was confused because this was when we were first starting the company. I had gotten rid of cable to save money, and all we had was Netflix, and he did not understand how cable worked and how he couldn't just watch what he wanted. Or I remember taking him to he was 8 at this point, taking him to a hotel and seeing the phone there. And that was like a strange object, because I had never, one of the things I never did was have a home phone. Even when I bought my house in 2004, I said, why do I need? I have a cell phone. Why do I need a home phone? I've never had a home phone. But I still remember my Speaking of childhood, I still remember my phone number from when I was a kid.
It's so funny. I remember my phone number, and my wife and I were high school sweethearts. I remember her home phone number, and I remember the phone number of my best friend in middle school. Huh. Like all just they're in
Have you
my
tried
head.
calling any of them to see who picks up?
No, I haven't. But back, not to go be back in the day guy, but that was how you had interactions with people as a teenager. You pick up the phone and you called them, and if you had a cordless phone, you were doing really well. And if you didn't, and you just had a cord, then you had to stretch that cord to wherever you were.
Did you
in the
sound
house.
like your dad? Because people used to get really annoyed because, well, they call and ask for Jim, which is why I always went by James before I moved out, because they would always say, well, the answer would be, well, which one? Because we had the same name. So that was always like the idea that someone other than you would answer the phone is also alien. Like I'll call my son and he doesn't even say hello. He did the phone, and I'll go, "Are you there?" And he'll go, "Yeah." I'll go, "You're supposed to say hello when you answer a phone." and maybe it's him. I don't know, but
I haven't come across that with my
it's
my
the
kids.
strangest thing. He doesn't say hello. I don't understand it.
I mean, when they're like he's what, 12?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that age is when they start, like, I think, better understanding the social norms to some degree. But like, my kids when they were younger would also do similar, like, yeah, and it's also unsettling when they don't say bye.
Yeah, they just hang up.
Okay, and they just hang up the phone. It's like it almost is like talking to my 91-year-old grandfather, because it is the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like weird, but
Except he probably says ahoy hoy.
well, he's dead now. So when I
he
do
doesn't
talk
say
to
anything.
him, yeah, I have to go to the astral plane. But are you also noticing that attention spans are like I don't think that my 7-year-old daughter Alice could sit through a 30-minute cartoon.
I think I think there'd be a hard time. Lizzie watches what's that blacksmith show, Forged in Fire, with me, and she has a hard time, and she really likes it. She loves Doug on there. He's like, your knife will kill.
Oh, I love that
yeah,
guy.
she loves him so much that she found she wants a shirt that says
It will
your
kill.
knife, sir, will kill.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, okay, that's cool. But she'll make it through one of those, but towards the end she starts fading. So. But she also, I mean, she doesn't consume any social media, so I think that does help. I don't let her. She really doesn't watch YouTube either, so I'm not sure if maybe her time frames are a little bit longer. She most of what she consumes is on Netflix from a cartoon perspective, and I think a lot of that stuff is about 30 minutes long. But Jack, on the other hand, is a whole different thing. He's with I think I'm getting old, because although the YouTube stuff I don't understand any of it. I just don't get it.
YouTube's my primary way to absorb like culture now. And sitting nowadays through a 3-hour movie is like, oh my God, this is so long. But
It forces the content to be better, though.
yeah, it really does, because I feel like we're more selective now about what we'll watch and what we won't. And you have so many options that you can say, I'm really into watching this, but only because, of the continuity of it. Like Stranger Things is a great example of like it's a franchise, and if you don't watch the first season, you don't really know where you're at in the second season. Marvel is the king of this. But like,
but you have to accept that, because that's one of the things that I like about these shows, that they'll just say unabashedly, yeah, you need to watch the whole thing, and we're not gonna help you along if you don't.
Yeah.
Because that would be at the expense of the people that are already watching. And I do definitely prefer that.
Yeah, I think, there's people out there that I think are, you know, like if they could go and get a doctorate in Marvel Comics, they they should, because like they are so expert in every single moment that's happened in the last 12 years or 15 years or whatever it's been in those movies, that it's crazy that they just, and I I think what that does for me, coming from being a kid that read a lot of books, and I mentioned I didn't really have TV, so I did a lot of books, either, the classic books, but also like the Choose Your Own Adventure books. Remember those? Like I, I like that there's a through point, and that you, to get the meta kind of Easter egg joke in, the latest Thor movie, you have to have watched the first Thor movie or the movie before that Thor movie, or, so it really, it's a little bit more engaging than just a one-off film, which raises the bar for like the one-off films. They have to be like incredible. But I'm actually thinking about, so I want to just quickly, shout out to the right, that both in the spirit of attention spans, but also everybody is trending towards franchise-based entertainment. I think, I haven't seen the new Top Gun, but I hear it's incredible.
So you're suggesting that we're going to do franchise-based advertising?
Yeah, I think that's probably, I think what I'm more looking at is how it impacts our culture, like what the overall zeitgeist, like even I'm seeing ads now. Like I watched a YouTube, a pre-roll ad yesterday for Acura, where they're starting to commodify their car models based on how they might present themselves as superheroes. And it's got that vibe of like, this is this car, and this is the, the Superman of our car line, and this is the Batman of our car line.
I think you need to write a post about the idea of this sort of continuity in advertising, because one, it's brilliant, and two, it actually feeds very, very well into not only the idea of you capturing an audience, but then you evolving with that audience along their journey. So I think there's a lot of marketing funnels that are built are not built with that narrative continuity. People are just kind of plugged. They're plugged into the different phases of the journey, but how they move through that is not readily apparent, especially from a narrative perspective. I think,
it's always been an interest of mine, because it's like, can we tell a story that evolves over a certain set of ads, right? Whether it's in a video capacity, right? That video is the easiest way to have some air of continuity based on what you're doing, but in a very tactical space like retargeting, is there a way, and I know there is from a media perspective because we've talked about it, but is there a way to have a narrative form where, retargeting ad A lands you on landing page A, and because you're on landing page A, you get a cookie that serves you retargeting ad B, and that brings you to landing page B. And I think that as our generation, the millennial generation, comes into their midlife and becomes, we're already pretty much the primary consumers of content, but as we grow into that more, I gotta imagine there's gonna be a warm welcome to episodic style advertising. And the question is just, how do you pull that off? Which, number one, I think it takes, and maybe you can speak to this better than I can. I always, one of the hangups for me is it must take incredible amount of financial resources to actually do that.
No, and what's interesting is the biggest lift is actually on the creative end. The utilization of a strong retargeting campaign is actually one of the lower cost, higher performing ways of converting what you're capturing. So I think that the more you can kind of explain the narrative process and building those retargeting ads to draw someone in. I think people would be really interested in that. Maybe that's kind of what we leave with the hook with, that you need to write that piece of content and then we need to talk about it.
Yeah, that would be fun. That would be a fun way to, because I've been watching all these. I mean, it's not been. This isn't a new thing, right? Like this episodic content's always existed, but the superhero vibe baked into that, and the fact that there's a fandom associated with it, and they're looking for opportunities to bring to the table, I forget, I think it was like Guardians of the Galaxy 2. James Gunn, the director, tweeted like, there are 88 Easter eggs in this movie, and you all have found 86. And there was like this clamoring to like just rewatch the movie again and again and again and again and again to find, 87 and 88. And I still think there's one that the people just haven't found.
That, or he was trying to juice his residuals.
Yeah, think about the impact that streaming has on that is, a lot of these like streaming services, Disney Plus and Netflix and Amazon, they don't release their numbers. You don't know how many people have watched Stranger Things. They might allude to it if it's good news, but I'll go to another like Moon Knight or Miss Marvel or Hawkeye. No, Disney hasn't really talked about those because the rumor is that the streaming numbers aren't great on those shows.
And there's no benefit. And like you said, if they're not talking about it, it's because there isn't a benefit.
Right.
If there's a benefit to talking about it, they're going to talk about it.
Right.
So it could also be because they're trying to protect talent and talent contracts and how well someone's doing,
Yeah.
because the flip side of that is if I'm constantly talking about how well a particular piece of talent is doing, other people might be looking at them looking to poach that. So, and considering the absolute war that streaming is going through right now from a content perspective, which that's a whole nother thing to talk about, the injection of advertising into all of these streaming platforms and the recreation of cable, which is has been going on and will continue to go on. We're just rebuilding the cable system, but in a streaming environment, because everyone's realizing that while they might not like commercials, what they really don't like is paying full boat for content. No one likes that.
Yeah, and I think the disruptors, end up becoming the disrupted after a while. And I think that's a really interesting angle, fodder for future conversation, is that, this really shook up some of the 800-pound gorillas in the world of making content, Hollywood and otherwise. And it took them about 10 years to kind of, get up off the ground and figure out how they were going to deal with it. But it's the same thing with this audio space of doing podcasts and things like that. It started with people that weren't celebrities per se, and they just started doing it. And now,
unlike us.
Yeah, right. We're not, no, it's for the 8 people that are going to actually hear this. But it started with, people that were very similar to us in, I might just use this to kind of build a brand and get my name out there. And, once the big entities get a sense of, oh man, this is a space that's being disrupted, we're going to slide over to this and start. Like Spotify is a great example of bringing in, these paying this insane amount of money to people like Joe Rogan and armchair expert Dax Shepard and stuff like that to come on and now be Spotify exclusive. Just like if you if you want to watch Stranger Things, there's only one place you can find that. You can't download that on the open market in a you can't buy it as a movie or a show, right? You have to get it on Netflix. I think it's the same thing with audio now. So, but yeah, let's call it